Hi, we are here at Husys, which is India's first HR company to be listed on NSE emerging platform. Though it's a small company with about 70 employees, 30 crores turnover, but this small company is doing some big stuff. Let's go and meet the founder, Mr. G.R. Reddy, and find out what Husys is all about. Hi, I see a lot of posters of 2016. What is the story behind this?
Yeah, so there's a lot to learn from sports anyway, and incidentally my daughter is into full-time sports.
Okay.
And she represents India, and she was in the Commonwealth 2018.
Okay.
Represented rhythmic gymnastics, and that is where we kind of give a lot of preference to sports, and we keep learning a lot. And we have two of my employees also. There are two of them who are here. One is a paracyclist, the other is a boxer, national boxer, and also an international mixed martial art specialist. So they have here. This is Money.
Hi, Money.
Money.
Hi.
Money is a boxer.
He's a boxer.
National boxer. National boxer. And also the
MMA it's a martial
fighter.
art like UFC.
UFC
Cage fights.
Uh-huh.
Used to do
You used that.
participated in international level.
Oh, lovely.
In Mumbai.
Okay, Mumbai.
That's his this thing. We have another one. This is Shanmukh.
Hi, Shanmukh.
Shanmukh is a paracyclist.
Okay.
So, and also I think a couple of marathons that he did. 75.
78 marathons.
78 marathons.
And covered more than 8,000 kilometers in cycling.
Okay.
And covered cycle ride from Bangalore to Hyderabad.
I see.
Which is 575 kilometers. Covered in 3.5 days. I'm a para athlete. I'm aimed to be para Olympian.
All the best to you.
Thank
All
you.
the best.
So that's the inspiration. Now you know why
Great. Now I see why
we are around.
Yes.
Why we encourage sports as a aspect.
Sports makes us to make more discipline
Yeah.
and concentrate on the work.
Yeah, I was at Zaggle also, and they were saying, was talking about sports and entrepreneurship having, they run
very
parallel.
close, very close.
A lot of things you can
It's
bring
not
from
as
sports
easy.
into entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship to sport.
Correct.
The same
correct.
dedication, discipline is what is required.
Absolutely.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah. Thank you.
All the best to you.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much.
Thanks.
So thank you for that tour of your office. And as a HR company, I think you're setting a great precedence where you're hiring people, differently abled people into your organization, which is very good. It's very good. Thank you. So let me start with this question. You're of India's first HR company to be listed on NSE.
Right.
So what was the idea behind listing? Usually we see startups going and startup raising funds. What was your idea of listing?
So our life has been always with startups and MSMEs, and that's what we chose to be, where there's no HR. And then for 17 years that we spent with so many companies in establishing. And listing is always an aspiration, for any small company when they start. But however, I think since you are actually working with the MSMEs, it is always good to be at a platform where, your positioning, your brand positioning is one of the very key important thing. How do I tell them that 17 years I worked in this industry, without even actually saying, So being on the listed on an entity, so what we actually have become is that when we go to meet any MSMEs, no longer the discussion starts on HR.
Okay.
Incidentally, you do anyway HR, right? That's why you're here.
Yeah.
But tell me, how did you get onto the, platform, NSE platform? Because that's an aspiration. For the startup always, or a small company always, because the business owner looks at that way. So I think that is one aspect. But at the same time, the kind of an access and the reach that we will get, the moment we are listed, we were featured in the World Wide Web. Maybe millions of pages would have covered, because your one ticker keeps actually going, and NSE being one of the largest transactions that happens in the world. So we chose NSE because of that as well.
So it puts you directly into a spotlight.
Absolutely. So anywhere in the world, people can Google and find out. And we found that after our searches from different countries have increased, and we have good partnerships, that we developed because of that as a factor.
Listing.
Absolutely. And
now that these startups also have a platform in India, so would you recommend startups to go for listing?
Yeah, I think it's always about, how do you really, what is the objective of a listing is very important. See, for me, the objective was to create a brand in an environment that you're working with, and you become aspirational. Plus, we are building out new HR entrepreneurs through franchisee network, because that is something I can't reach so many people, and hence that was very well fitted. While money raising is not just a question, but it is also about how do you create value for the efforts that you put in. How do you create a currency out of your efforts. Basically, otherwise, typically companies, they are there forever, and if you ask them how much is your paid up capital or a authorized capital, 1 lakh, that's it, and nobody knows the value. You're working for so many years, but I think this is an opportunity to create value of what you deserve, and then maybe you still continue to have your own authority in running the business, unlike if you have the investors coming in. Maybe many times you pivot, you kind of make changes based on the interference, I would say, one way, because they may look at it business differently. Yes. So here in this case, if you really know your business, what you're doing, you really want to go that extra mile and create that value for yourself, this is a better platform. And one more thing is also that most of the times you don't have collaterals to give it to the bank. Not necessarily everybody has collaterals.
Yes, not everybody.
Right? So this is another opportunity. And now that startup has come in, I think it is even more useful. So you can start much earlier onto the platform rather than little late like us.
Whenever one hears the word HR, it is seen as staffing.
Yep.
Whereas your company's Husys is not about staffing.
Right.
It's about using technology towards staffing.
Right.
So could you talk about the business model?
So I would say using technology for people enablement. I would put it in very broader perspective. HR companies are not just only recruiting companies, but there are also training companies, there are also individual consultants. So it is all very unorganized that way, but except only recruiting is organized, hence people think HR means recruitment. I think for us, recruitment is like 1-2% of our overall business. So naturally that says that when we are dealing with an MSMEs, it is all about an totality of the business, the end to end, from a hiring to a firing. I think in between everything is what we actually cover. So we help bring them onto the platform, onto the company, and do their performance management, help them train, retrain, etc. So in the process, we use technology as a enabler for us. So we started investing technology for about last 4-5 years, in enabling them. So the idea is most of the MSMEs in HR don't have the HR department as a function. So for us, the target who manages HR in any company is the business owner or the spouse, because most of the times husband or wife, and that's how it, or a friends, that's it done. And then the accountant and the administration person. These are the only two things. Of course, I also have a definition of brother-in-law also who runs it sometimes, but that's the way HR is actually handled. So they are not experts in HR. So that is where we are bringing our knowledge and then bringing onto a platform so that it is offered at a much cost-effective manner, where they continue to believe their values and sustain their values, but run their HR department seamlessly. So that's our objective.
Most of the MSMEs, only the small micro businesses, are family-owned businesses.
Yeah.
Now, what is the acceptability among them for a solution like yours, because it's technology-driven?
Yes. So I think initially the people itself was not in their frame of mind in terms of working. But I think over a period of time, it changed drastically. Nowadays, people, they know that, yes, I think we want to know. Family, as you said, I think most of the family businesses are the second or the third generation are actually taking over those businesses. So in my last experience, I think I worked with the third or fourth generation entrepreneur, but also convincing the senior people. So when I go actually to talk, there is a one person who's there, but there are 3 generations who sit there to understand ki, easy in safe hands.
Yeah.
See, that's what they look at as a protection. Correct. But I think once they believe that I think this is going to work, I think there is nobody else who believes like that. So, and my experience always been with the family businesses are the best businesses that I enjoyed and experienced and grown. My growth also is actually, maybe I can attribute to a larger scope for the family-owned businesses, because they pay you on time, they take care of yourself, they value your relationship. I think that is very key even for the other MSMEs need to understand, how do you get the expertise from somebody which you don't have, and how well you gel, the value chain, how do you integrate with them. I think that's going to be the very critical thing.
You had a program called Mission HR program. Can you talk about that and throw some light on it?
Oh yeah, so when I actually started off, I started off a concept of HR function outsourcing. That's the first time anybody probably would have used that word. So what it means was to outsource the entire HR function and run it for MSMEs because they don't have it. So we create and run it forever. But again, my cost efficiencies have to be, very good, because otherwise you can't, expect that, what salary that I would have drawn in my last company and, you pay it. Yeah. So, but I need to bring it drastically by 1/10 of the cost, for a small company. So what I did is we actually designed a program of a 3-month full-time program for the fresh HR graduates. Most of them done an MBA or a graduate or something, but they come to us, and then we started with 3 people. So my company first revenue started with the Mission HR program, I would say. Okay. So that's another way of looking at. And then we had started with 3 people, and then they actually went on to become very big business owners as on today. So I think I take pride in creating those entrepreneurs, not just an HR professionals as such. And even till today we do it, but the change that we did is earlier we used to do a physical program and people used to come and all. Now with technology coming in, we are no longer using any notebooks and things like that. So all that you will see, some of them, they're just on their laptops, they open our software, and then we talk about each subject, which is called a module. Okay. Module in the other sense, and then we keep telling them about how to really go about. So it's all about practical learning.
Them also. You're skilling them also.
It's a pure skilling, and which is scalable and faster. Because if I start teaching them what is payroll and all that stuff, it takes a whole lot of time. But if I tell them on the system, hey, these are the components, this is how you do it, this is how you actually manage it, that's it. Practice. So more a practical HR teaching that we always believed, and then we are using technology as an enabler right now.
You recently also brought a report which is called the small change, the $15 trillion economy. The MSME rule. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, so our dream always has been about, there was no data availability in the country in terms of the MSMEs, but with the people related aspects. So we always really were very passionate about people aspects to brought it, but I think it took long time, but I'm very happy that we started in 2019. It's an outlook survey of MSMEs. We covered around 500 MSMEs across the country, because the representation so
500 across the country.
I think that should be enough to do some PhD for me. So so what we covered is we covered about 70 data points that we actually covered to actually understand the depth of people related aspect in the MSMEs. How far are they? Because if data is available, I think we will do a better decision making in relation to people aspects of MSMEs. Like it could be maternity leave or it could be PF. So when we ask that the changes that had happened recently in PF, etc., it's very astonishing to see only 20% of them know that yes, there is a change. But do they know what exactly the change? They don't know.
Are you talking about from the staff standpoint, or is it from the employer?
Employer itself.
Employer itself doesn't know.
But one of the questions we asked is, are you registered under MSME? Not sure or more than who did register. So can you believe the kind of awareness about the MSME, what actually it can do for the startups and small companies. And if you're not registered, that means you don't even know whether you're registered or not, right? So I think that is the kind of an ignorance that is there, and that is where I think we want to make sure that how does their voice is heard when there is a new law is brought in, and then how is the voice. So we want to make sure that this is going to be an every year assignment, and we have this design and everything is being done under the guidance of a Professor Biju Worki. He's from IIM Ahmedabad, and also Professor Niharika from BJIM Hyderabad. So they're now trying to help me to create this whole report. Going forward, I think we will have it every year.
So what is the future Husys is working on, which is future ready?
Right. So one is technology as a platform, but I think technology as a platform, we're going to use it mainly for a data generation and the transaction generation. But I think it's going to be very, very important to see how our 22 years of experience, 17 years of experience and my previous experience, how can we give it back to them without we being there? I think that's going to be the critical thing. So that means that there is something called an intelligence, of a solutioning intelligence that need to be built. So now our next 3 years plan is to create an intelligent small engine. You key in a question, or maybe you ask a question, probably you will get different answers or an options. So what we want to say is that they don't want to wait for a GR or some of my associates to reach out to say, hey, I have this problem, how would you help, or what can I do? Instead of that, there are millions of problems that we solved. Why can't we put them as a problem and the solution, and then they keep asking and learning, the machine starts learning. So maybe in the next 3 years, probably the machine learns faster if you are able to give the last 17 years into it, and it becomes one of the strongest tool for the future, which reduces the cost of managing HR for MSMEs. That is where our enabling comes in. Enabling is without we being there, can the technology help them? I think that's going to be the future. So next 3 years, we're going to work on, making this more intelligent, and we're going to use a lot of experts also to give opinions and solutions to each problem related to HR, and then potentially it can generate its own solutioning, especially related to MSMEs, and that's going to be our future plan.
So let me come to my, one of the favorite questions. You published a book called The First Job. I have a copy of it here. So what is this book all about, and how did you discover it?
So initially, it's all related. When you say you need to encourage employment in the country, and the biggest employer is MSMEs, and nobody realizes. I think that is where I really wanted to first tell them that jobs are abundant, okay, but you need to just prepare a bit before you do. So I used to write a lot of columns for newspapers on every Monday, on how to prepare themselves for a first job and all, because we're just out of the corporate. We hired a lot of people from the top IITs, IIMs to a normal colleges. So all the experiences that I wanted to put it and say, okay, how can I reach to a larger number of people, because as physically I can't reach so many. So one of the earliest attempt was to, while writing to the newspapers, book was one of the option where you can actually go reach out your expertise, and that's why you'll find it's a very small, it's a pocket size, because I don't think the engineering students or any of the students, enough books are there, but they're going to be hating those books. So that's why we made sure as though it's in the pocket while they are in the bus or anything they can review, and not more than 20-30 minutes it will take to read. That's how we also, because the attention span for reading itself is very little. So we said even each module maybe takes about 2 minutes to read. So we kind of kept those in mind and then released this book, which talks about a preparation to get into a first job. So that's how.
And it also has certain questionnaires and problem solving as well.
Yes. There's some preparation, some kind of a workbook. It's almost like a workbook, but it's not a workbook. But I think most of the caricature cartoons that we did, I think are self-explanatory. Okay. They don't even actually, I can guarantee that the way that it's depicted, you don't need to read the next 4 pages. Because you just understand the essence by only reading, just looking at the caricature there.
So as you yourself said, you're truly a HR company which is covering the complete bandwidth, or the complete spectrum of HR.
Right.
All the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. My pleasure.